Replacing the outer tie rod end on your 4th gen Maxima. First, I'm going to show you the driver's side. I'm going to do the passenger, but check tie rods. Basically, just grab the wheel, the left and right side, and shake it. If you got any movement, you take a look behind it. Try to look where the slop is. It'll be in the outer ball joint or the inner tie rod. The ball joint right where it connects to the rack. It's pretty much just looking and trying to find where the play is. And as you saw, the other side was fine. That's how it should look. The other day I shook down my front end and got this. That's all on the outer tie rod end. We'll pull off the wheel and we'll see what it is. Well, here we can see the outer tie rod end. Shake that. Apparently what happened here is this nut is backed off. There was no cotter pin in it when I found it. So the nut's backed off over time, and there's a lot of that to come loose. Now I could just tighten that nut up, throw a cotter pin in there, and call it done. But I don't know how long it's been like that. The stud and the nut are all rusted to hell, and all that play in there has probably damaged that ball joint and the tie rod end. So I figured go ahead and replace it. Now this is the original, so it's probably about worth replacing anyway with 140 some odd thousand miles on it. Now tools you'll need for this, stock equipment anyway, 19mm socket for the nut on the tie rod ends, and a 22mm wrench to loosen this jam nut where the inner connects to the outer. So first, and these are usually pretty tough to come off. Just going to loosen up this jam nut here. Not too much, just enough so that it's no longer putting a lot of pressure on that inner or on that outer, so that you can remove it. So next thing you want to do, there's going to be a cotter pin in there normally. Suck it on there and take that one off. Take this bottom nut off. As I figured, the stud is spinning with the nut. Alright, since that stud is spinning with the nut, I can't really get a good way to get on there. Break out the electric impact. It's nice for home use. About $100 from Lowe's. It's a Cobalt model. 220 foot-pounds of torque it says, but it's a lot more than that. Let's see. Even that doesn't want to do it. There we go. So to apply some upward pressure on this, on the actual outer tie rod end, to kind of lock that stud in place, put some tension on it, and it'll try to hold it as best as it can. You spin the nut right off. Try to do that by hand, but just couldn't. The impact helps. So that nut's off. Your outer's loose like this. What you do is you just, once it's out, just spins right off. And you don't want to move this too much, this jam nut right here. So you can just spin the new outer tie rod end right on there up to that nut and tighten it down, and you should be fairly close with your alignment. When dealing with steering components like this, you want to get your alignment checked, but it should be pretty close. So there's your old outer tie rod end. And actually the joint itself is in pretty good condition. I tore the shit out of that boot, but I just didn't really trust it being loose like that, so junk that one. Here's my new it's a Duralast outer tie rod end. Should be fine. It's greasable, unlike the stock one. A little Zerk fitting back here you got to put in. It comes with a new jam nut. I'm not even going to bother, mine's kind of rusted on there. New castle nut for the bottom of the ball joint, and a new cotter pin. So go ahead and take the new outer tie rod end and just screw it, drop it first, the other way, there we go. There we go. Just the inner tie rod should usually be tighter than that. It shouldn't just bounce around. So that's probably worn down too, but couldn't really tell by shaking it down because of that massive movement from the loose outer. So screw this back on. And that's locked into the jam nut, and that's pointing down how it should. So that's right about there. I'll take it, press it down to the knuckle, and you want to check out, make sure they're the same length. I already did. They are, because if they are different lengths, you'll have to adjust how far. Oops, damn. If the outer tie rods are different lengths, you'll have to adjust how far in you thread the inner into the outer to keep your alignment close. And you really should go have your alignment checked at least. A lot of places like Firestone will do it for free. Yeah, so it's worth a shot. So you thread that castle nut on there, and on this Duralast, which is AutoZone, outer tie rod end. See here, part number is ES3438. On this one, the new castle nut is 17 millimeter. So you take your, in this case I'm just going to use the electric impact because it's a lot quicker. Noisier, but quicker. You just go ahead and run that up. And you want to make sure you have access to the hole that's drilled through that stud so you can put your cotter pin in. So if it doesn't line up with one of the slots in the castle nut, you just have to turn it some more. Just tighten it up a little until it does line up. And when it does, just go ahead and do it from the other direction so I can see it. I'll put it through sideways if at all possible. Like that. And then just bend those around, and that just keeps the castle nut locked in place so it can't spin off like mine did. So I don't know who's the last person that touched the outer tie rod. I know I never have. But whoever they are, they forgot the castle nut. So also, one thing I didn't go over. Yours hopefully won't be as loose as mine, so it will be a pain in the ass to get it out of the knuckle. You don't want to go banging on bottom of the stud right here, because then you may just mushroom it out and it won't fit through the knuckle anymore. You'll have to grind it down or cut it off or whatever. What you want to do is take a hammer and you hit right here on the knuckle, right where the outer tie rod and the ball joint goes through. Hit it right there with something big, preferably. It'll shock it and tie rod end should pop right out. So after that nut's in, cotter pin's in, and what you want to do, don't forget to loosen or to tighten up that jam nut right here. Wrong way. I always seem to forget on these. And don't be afraid to tighten the shit out of it. Then I just like to center it back up like that, so it isn't sitting at an angle. Center it back up. Make sure that boot's on there pretty good. And after you're done, you're going to want to go ahead and grease the Zerk fitting. Get a little grease gun, whatever. Just grease that up. Not too much. You don't want grease fucking everywhere, but you don't want to run it dry either. So, it's removing and replacing the outer tie rod end on a 4th gen Maxima.